Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Yags, and the Bradley Beal saga is finally over. So today, Shams reported that the Phoenix Suns were buying out Bradley Beal, right? So they waived and stretched his contract, much like the Damian Lillard situation, and he's most likely going to sign with the Clippers as I am recording this video. So this is something that's, been going on since basically the trade deadline, right? When they tried to move Bradley Beal and they just couldn't. The no trade clause obviously played a huge part in that situation. And I feel like this move for the Phoenix Suns is basically, them admitting that they kind of screwed up. Right. It wasn't good. They made a trade for a guy that just didn't pan out. Right. I like Bradley Beal as a player. I think he is still a good enough player. Just with the Phoenix Suns, that whole situation was a complete mess with Beal, with, even Kevin Durant, even Devin Booker at points. Just it didn't work. Right. It was a team that was just completely over the salary cap. Right. They were way into the second apron. They just couldn't do anything. They did not have any success over the past 2 years. And I think this kind of gives them a fresh start. Right. They move Beal. They're going to have dead money. So they're going to pay him around $19 million over the next 5 years, which is, kind of horrible. But you kind of just take that loss and, and you live with it and you try to reconstruct the team from here on out. So they are well below now the salary cap. It gives them a lot more flexibility to do things with that squad, which isn't much of a squad. Okay, let's get that out of the way. You still got Devin Booker. He signed that insane contract a couple weeks back. So he's definitely the main focal point of that team, which I think it was kind of obvious to everybody. You got Jalen Green from the Kevin Durant trade, which I'm not a major Jalen Green fan. I just don't think he shows up. But maybe he will. New place, new teammates, maybe he shows up. And then in the draft, you got Mark Williams from the trade. You got Kamal Malawach, which I'm a big fan of Kamal Malawach. I really hope he pans out. I really like him as a player, as a defensive anchor right there, and being a major shot blocker in the NBA. And you also got Rasheer Fleming. But that Phoenix team is just not very good overall. Right. I don't think they will make the playoffs. They might make the play-in, but I really don't think that they are capable of beating a stacked West to get into the playoffs. So they kind of just cut their losses with Bradley Beal and, bought him out. So that was a good move in Phoenix, fresh start over there. Then for Beal, as it's reported, he will probably be going to the Clippers. And for the Clippers, I really like this, right? I think this is something that really makes sense. They were a team that were good last year. They kind of started being really good after the trade deadline. And I think, adding Beal, adding another offensive weapon next to James Harden, who is basically at this point in his career like a true point guard, I think it makes a lot of sense. It gives them a shooting option. It gives them a really good player for, not much money. He's basically going to sign for a 2-year, $10 million contract, right? So they're only going to pay him about $5 million a year. So for a guy that is capable of giving you, 22, 23 points a game, shooting high volume threes at around 38 to 40% on the season. This is just fantastic, right? You basically took Norman Powell and traded him for John Collins, which was a necessity for that team, right? They did not have a true power forward. We'll get to him in a second. And you got Bradley Beal, right? You made space for Bradley Beal, and I think it gives them also versatility with that team. He will most likely be a starter. I think the starters for the Clippers are going to be Harden, Beal, Kawhi, John Collins, and Zubac. But you can also have them come off the bench, right? If they try him out as a starter, it really doesn't work out and they need some scoring from the bench and a little more defense. You could, start Chris Dunn and then just have Beal come off the bench and be that second scorer, along with Bogey. But I think Beal also gives you more than Norman Powell, at least on the playmaking, at least ball handling side of things, right? He's not much of a playmaker, but he can be a playmaker, and he's just a better ball handler than Norman Powell ever was. I do worry about the defense, right? The backcourt defense for the Clippers with James Harden, who has never been a defender, and Bradley Beal, who's never been a defender and is lackluster effort defensively, is something that we really need to talk about. Might be a problem, right? Might be a problem, but I think they'll figure it out. I do think the Clippers might be a top 4 team in the West this year, like right at this point. I think they're right up there with the Lakers. I actually think the Clippers have a better team than the Lakers overall. So I have OKC still being the best team in the West. And then I have, the Nuggets and the Rockets, kind of that 2-3 spot. And then the Clippers coming in at 4 with the Bradley Beal signing and also the John Collins. I think the John Collins signing was really good, right? I think it was something that they really needed. I just really want to see how that's going to fit around Zubac, who is not a stretch 5. He generally plays inside the paint. And John Collins is not a stretch 4 either. He can play outside, but it's really not his game. He's more of a pick and roll, kind of roll to the basket kind of guy. So having Zubac right there in the paint as he rolls is going to be interesting. I'm curious to see what the Clippers are going to do with those two big men over there. But I really do think the Clippers are a very good team, and they are going to fight for, for that top 3, top 2 seed in the West. I really do think so. But for Beal overall, right, I think that over the past couple of years, since he didn't work out in Phoenix, his value just dropped immensely. So I'm curious to see how he's going to play with the Clippers. And of course, right, he only has a 2-year contract. So next year in the 2026 offseason, the Clippers will need to make a decision on whether they are going to re-sign Bradley Beal or not. Of course, he's never going to get that $50 million a year ever again. But if the Clippers do have success, maybe he can get something around 35 million. And I also think he fits the Clippers timeline, right? You have Harden is an aging player, Kawhi is an aging player, and Beal is, he's a little bit younger, but he's right up there, right? So if the Clippers, if they can have success the next 3 to 4 years and maybe make a finals push, I don't know if they will be able to just because the West is just so stacked, then maybe Beal can, resurrect his career from whatever happened with the Phoenix Suns. But yeah, guys, this was big news. This was kind of something that we were all expecting. Like I said, for the Phoenix Suns, I think it's a new beginning. I think this was something that they needed to do. And then for Beal and the Clippers, it gives Beal a new chance to kind of prove himself to the NBA, kind of get his value back up, see if he can get a new contract. And for the Clippers, it gives them a guy that can put up points. He's a scorer, like I said, high volume 3-point shooter, shoots well, he's a very efficient player, and they can make a push. I think if that team is healthy and they have, Kawhi and James Harden completely healthy throughout the year and through the playoffs, I think they will be a problem. They might not win, they might not get out of the West, but they could be a problem for Denver. They could be a problem for OKC, or they could be a problem for the Houston Rockets. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about this Beal thing to the Los Angeles Clippers. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get that 1,000 subscriber mark, and it really helps me out, so I appreciate that. And that's all for today's video. Peace.